who are unable to attend today. Families who are unable to attend will still be able to access the meeting and get the information. So just a heads up, if you don't want to be recorded, you may want to turn off your camera. We will be sharing we have a PowerPoint that we'll share with you, fairly brief, but we'll give you a lot of information just about Arroyo Seco and about the junior high experience. If you have questions, you are welcome to type them into chat, and we will probably answer many of them as we go through the presentation. If not, we will have time at the end for questions and answers. Okay, so with that, let's go ahead and get started. And I would like to begin by introducing my amazing team to you, our administrative and counseling team. So we have myself. I'm fortunate to work with two incredible assistant principals, Ms. Rebecca Rose and Ms. Francine Dos Remedios. So Ms. Dos will most likely be working with the 7th graders next year, although any one of the three of us, we're all happy to help your child in any way that we can. So they're certainly welcome to come and see any one of us. We also have three amazing counselors, Mr. Marshall and Ms. Dealentice, Mrs. Ward as well. Unfortunately, Mrs. Ward is not with us tonight, but we are very fortunate to have Ms. Libby Carson joining us, who has been helping out in her absence. So the breakdown on Alpha, do we have the slide, Mr. Marshall?
Absolutely. I'll share my screen right now.
So when you, again, Ms. Rose will work primarily with 8th graders next year. Ms. Dos Remedios will work with 7th graders. Ms. Dealentice works with students with the last names that begin with A through GA. Mr. Marshall has the middle part of the alphabet, and then Ms. Ward is O to Z. And of course, we're fortunate to have a great group of teachers and support personnel, office staff, campus supervisors. I'm very proud to work with a number of wonderful professionals. So welcome, and we'll move on to the next slide.
All right, next slide will be one of our counselors, Ms. Dealentice.
Welcome everybody to Seco. It's great to see so many parents here. I see over 5 pages worth of folks here tonight. Thank you for joining us. In our presentation tonight, we want to review just some basic things about life at Arroyo Seco. We'll describe teaming and that whole teaming process that we'll have. We'll describe our famous rotating schedule. We'll talk about some of our 7th grade courses. We'll discuss with you some keys to success to be successful in middle school, junior high. We'll talk about the various supports we have in place for your child, whether they need some academic help or maybe they need some social emotional support, and we'll share some of that information. And then life at Seco is also pretty fun, and we'll talk a little bit about lunchtime activities and so forth, our clubs and our intramural sports. And then at the very end, we'll tell you what's coming next after all of this information is given. I'm going to start by describing our teams. At Seco, we'll have approximately 640 incoming 7th graders. And when you hear that, you kind of go, oh, that's a lot of kids. And the reason for that is that's a lot of kids. So what we do is we try to put these kids into schools within a school type of idea. And we take those 640 kids and we divide them among teams. We currently have 4 7th grade teams. And we take anywhere from 130 to 175 students and we group them together. They're heterogeneously grouped. There's no high team, low team, naughty team, well-behaved team. Everybody's mixed up and they're randomly assigned. These teachers or these kids on this team have the same math, English, science, and history teachers. And that allows teachers to meet together and discuss the progress of the students, who's doing really well, who could use some extra support here, who could use an email home and reach out to parents, and that type of thing. it also helps us get the kids really excited about school. And there's a lot of competitions between teams. Teams take their kids on field trips, or sometimes we have some assemblies that are done by teams and special team days and so forth. The names of our teams that we have this year are Fusion, Aloha, Extreme, and Infinity. Click.
Oh, click. All right, we have Miss Carson. You're up next.
Perfect. So I'm going to talk about our rotating schedule, and it might seem confusing at first, but I promise that students catch on very quickly. So we have students will be taking 6 different subjects taught by 6 different teachers in 6 different classrooms. And each day starts with a different period, and I'll show you exactly what that means in a moment. But each day, the first period moves to the last period on the following day. So it just rotates, and I'll show you in a minute what that looks like. But every day of the week is consistent. So every Monday starts with A period. Every Tuesday starts with B period, and A period gets shifted to the bottom, to the last period of the day. Every Wednesday starts with C period, and B has gotten shifted to the last period of the day, etc. And then keep in mind, Wednesday is our late start day. So students start at 9:10 rather than at 8 a.m. So on normal days, each class is 55 minutes, but on Wednesday, it's a 40-minute class because we have that late start. And so the end of the day is at the same time, but students start at 9:10. So the next slide will show a little bit more about our rotating schedule. So this really shows it to you clearly. Oh, there it is. Okay. So on Monday, you will know what your period A is. And so you'll have A period, then B period. And then we always have nutrition after that. And that's a 15-minute time frame to get a snack, socialize a little bit, and then head to your next class. So then we'll have C period and D period. And then that's always followed by lunch, which is a nice break to get some lunch and see your friends. Sometimes there's club activities. And then you'll have E period and F period. Then you'll see how on Tuesday, we start with B period, and A period has shifted to the end of the day. Wednesday starts with C, and that's the late start day, and then D, and then E. So it does seem a little complicated at first, but everyone catches on really quickly.
All right, Mr. Marshall, you are up next.
Okay, thanks everyone. So as Miss Carson said earlier, every student will have 6 different classes, 6 exciting, fun-filled classes taught by amazing teachers here at Arroyo Seco. The subjects that they will have are English, math, science, history, PE, and an exploratory or elective class. So for most of our core classes, every student will be taking the same level. English, science, and history. For incoming 7th graders, they're going to be placed into English 7, Science 7, and World History is the 7th grade history subject that's taught for all of our 7th graders. The only exception is going to be with math. In math, the students have an opportunity to place into our accelerated Math 7 class. It is as much fun as it sounds like. The accelerated math class does take the 7th grade and 8th grade concepts, and they just cram them into the 7th grade year. In order to get into the accelerated Math 7 class, there will be a placement test administered at the feeder elementary schools. Typically, that test is administered sometime in May, and then you'll be mailed the results directly from our district office. And so based on those results, students will be placed either into the Math 7 or the accelerated Math 7 class. We do have students with IEPs and special education, and so sometimes they'll be placed into some basic English, basic science, history, math classes. And those, of course, are discussed at the matriculation meetings or with the case manager that your child currently has. Now, the one class that's not listed here that I touched on was PE. That is a class that every single student will take unless they're PE exempt. And that's only if there's a medical excuse. So I know we have a lot of young athletes in the community who do things like baseball, soccer, dance. Even with those extracurricular activities, students still must take PE in 7th grade and in 8th grade. All right, so the next slide will show you a bit about PE, and PE will happen every single day, just like every other class. And one of the things we always tell our incoming 7th graders to help alleviate some of the angst that comes with this transition is you will not be changing out the first day, the second day. It's usually the second week after they've been shown the locker room, after they've been taught how to open their lockers, where they will start to change out into their PE clothes in the locker room. Okay. We know there's enough that they have to get used to in that for those first couple of days with trying to find their classes, meet up with friends. So they still have PE those days, but they're not dressing out yet. But they will dress out eventually, and they will be using the locker rooms just like everybody else. And those are the only place that they have lockers is in the PE locker room. So students won't be using a locker for anything else other than to change into their PE clothes. Let's see, there will be a combination lock provided to students. If you happen to have a combination lock at home, or if you're able to purchase one, it is good practice for the students. It does give them one less thing to have to worry about because many of our students have never used a combination lock before. So it might be a good way for them to practice over the summer if you're able to buy one or find one. There's different activities you'll be doing in PE. Some of them include red laps, which is our running activity. That typically happens once a week as long as the weather is pleasant enough for the students. And that's some good old-fashioned running. And then, of course, we have fun activities such as dodgeball, basketball. There's circuit training that they do to really build some more of that cardiovascular fitness. There, of course, is a health component as well, where they touch on different things. It's more than just a physical activity. Maybe they talk about nutrition a bit, or other things as well. And there's some projects and quizzes that come in there. But it's a great way for the students to be active. That's one of the best things about this class is that every single day they're going to get out there and do various physical activities with the rest of their class.
Hey, Miss Tice, what about these exploratories? We hear so much about this wheel.
Woo! Those are the best classes of the day, the exploratory classes. So we actually have two different programs here at Arroyo Secos. Most students decide they'd like to go on the semester wheel. And the objective of the semester wheel is to expose students to as many different experiences as we can. The semester wheel is randomly chosen for students. They do not choose their electives. Electives are done on the bottom, called specialty electives, and I'll get to that in a minute. The semester wheel is a random placement, but we do try to give students something in the fine arts, something in the performing arts, something in the practical arts, and something in the engineering range, since engineering is one of our big pathways from us to Saugus High School. So these courses are introductory courses. They are not high school level courses and so forth. Their purpose is to be an experience. What's it like to be in a music class? What's it like in a science projects class? What's culinary all about? You know, all these different things. And again, these are randomly chosen for students. They do not select them. Now, some students would love to be in our specialty electives, and those electives are year-long, and they all have a process in which they need to apply to get into those electives. We have 2 bands, and now we've also added an orchestra. So orchestra's on there too. It's just not on here yet because it was a brand new one and Ms. D forgot to add it. But there's a band, a beginning band, an advanced band, and we have an orchestra. We are currently looking at interest. We may be even able to offer an advanced orchestra as well as a beginning orchestra. It depends on interest level from our students. We have a choir, an advanced choir for students who like to perform vocally with a great director. We have drama production and also beginning drama. Drama production is the group of students that do our fall play. Our drama production also is putting on a musical and some little skits. I think it's a murder mystery, if I remember right, on tomorrow. And they take students that are not in the class as well, but the drama production is the hub of our performances. They too have an audition process. All the advanced electives have audition processes. Beginning band and beginning orchestras open to everyone, even if you've never even picked up an instrument before. But it is a year-long commitment, so be ready for that. ASB that's our student government, our leadership class. They put on noontime activities, they put on school dances, they organize intramurals, they decide how we get to spend our money. Teachers have to go to them to get things approved from them, and that's a group of students. So that's really pretty cool. We have a video production class. It's called CNN, Conquistador News Network. So that's pretty fun. And that is where we have an actual little studio on our campus, and the kids are the talent. They run the cameras, they do the editing. There's directors, there's teleprompters. It's like a whole complete studio within a classroom. Kids really love that class, and it's really another gateway to one of our career pathways up at Saugus. And of course, we have a traditional yearbook. And again, that's open to our 7th graders as well. They can apply for yearbook. Those kids take pictures for the yearbook, they write copy for the yearbook, they help design layouts and pages, they produce the book, they get it ready to send to the publishers. Right now, we're getting ready to get our yearbooks back, and we will be giving them out towards the end of the year. One thing that you'll have at the beginning of the school year, little hint, Mom and Dad, that's the cheapest time to buy a yearbook, because as the year goes on, the price does go up. So just a heads up on that when you're buying things. If your child's interested in a yearbook, I highly suggest that you purchase it when you come for summer registration, which will be explained in a couple of slides.
All right, now we know that this transition can be sort of challenging for our students. So Mrs. Carson has some keys to success.
Yes, so every student will receive a binder reminder. I have an example of what it looks like here. So it's like a calendar where they can write down their assignments each day. And so this is really handy to use for kids to not only write down their assignments, but then for parents at home to be able to check and see what's due and if they've gotten everything done. Organization is a learning process, so you really want to help students transition to be independent and do this on their own. But at the start, it's really important that you take a look at their backpacks and check for loose papers. Oftentimes I'll work with students and I'll say, where is that worksheet? And they'll have, all these papers they're pulling out. It's really important for them to have an organized notebook system so that they know where their papers are, because it is very different traveling to different classes, and they'll want to have one space where they know all their science information is, or one space where all their history information is. The more you can prepare the nights before is great. I always tell my own kids that homework is not over until everything's put back into the backpacks and they're by the door ready to go. So it just sets everybody up for success, so you don't have frantic mornings trying to get everything together. Self-advocacy is a really big thing in junior high. And my experience has been in elementary school, where we do so much for the kids, both as parents and teachers, but there's really an emphasis in junior high on having kids be more independent and take responsibility for their learning. So that means helping them to start reach out to teachers if they have questions, if they have missing assignments. Students are welcome to email their teachers or talk to them, but if they're feeling a little bit shy about approaching them, they could send an email and you can help support them with that. Many teachers are available during nutrition or lunch for students to stop by. So you really want to help teach your child to go to the teacher if they do need clarification on an assignment, or if they were absent and missed something. With that in mind, attendance really is critical to success. So it is so important that you have your child here every day. And of course, if they're sick, we know they need to stay home and rest. but it's so important for them to be here because I see it all the time where when students miss a few days, it's very easy to get behind and it's difficult sometimes to catch up on that learning. We do have Google Classroom that teachers have, and that's a wonderful support at home that you can check Google Classroom for assignments, but no way replaces the face-to-face time that you get at school with teachers. But make sure you know and your child knows how to log on to their Google Classroom because that's an extra place to find assignments or get clarification or other websites that teachers might share. Be sure to have your student follow up with the teacher if they're absent. They may have missed a quiz, there may be an assignment that they need to complete. So that's a really important step. And then finally, one thing that I can't emphasize enough is that you and your child can keep track of grades and assignments through Infinite Campus. And you'll be learning how to log into that both as a parent and a student. So you can see your child's class and you can see their progress with their grades. And not only can you keep up with what their grades are at throughout the quarter, you can also click on this classroom and then see what assignments they have, what assignments they may have missed and need to complete, and what points they've gotten on those assignments. Also, how they're weighted. Some assignments are weighted more. So a test may be more important than maybe a daily assignment, but the points add up. So it's really important that you, together with your child, look at Infinite Campus, get in the habit of doing it, maybe Sunday nights or something, looking through those assignments and making sure that your child is keeping up and is on track so you don't have any surprises when you get the progress report at the 5-week mark or at the end of the quarter. It's very hard to catch up when students get behind. So that would be my number one. If you take away anything from this, it's keeping track on things on Infinite Campus.
Thank you, Mrs. Carson. In addition to our academic supports, we also have social emotional supports, and Mr. Marshall's going to touch on that.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Absolutely. We know that the transition to 7th grade is probably one of the biggest educational transitions that your student will ever have, more so than going into high school and even into college to some extent. Getting used to 6 different teachers and different personalities with different policies and work to manage and keep track of. It could be a lot for the students. It could be a lot for parents. And even for us as school counselors, we work really hard to have a good idea of what's going on in the classroom. But in addition to all that stress, we know that there's a big transition for them emotionally and socially as well. We're coming into junior high at Arroyo Seco with over 1,100 students. It is a lot of 7th graders, a lot of 8th graders coming together. And there's a lot of changes that they're working through developmentally. There's social changes, going through puberty as well, trying to meet new friends, trying to find their own identity in this crowd of students. It can be a lot for them to navigate through. And we definitely need your help. We have a lot of great supports, but we need your help. We need your outreach and your communication. We are here to help. First and foremost, please know that. And one of the best ways we can do that is by you reaching out to us. If there's questions or concerns that you have about what your student is going through, and if you're curious if it's developmentally appropriate, we can definitely lend some expertise on that and give you some guidance. There's, especially for the first time parents, this is your first time with a child going through junior high, it's going to be a lot to get used to. And we're here to help with that whole process, okay? And we do have some supports here at school that the students can access. One of those supports is our wellness center. It's very exciting. Every school in the Heart District does have its own wellness center. We've had ours honestly designed by students right after COVID hit. We had a group of our students come together. We gave them some funding, and they did just an amazing job getting things together for our break room. That's what they've named it. And the break room is staffed by a license or a professional, I should say, a mental health professional that students can access throughout the day. Nutrition, lunch, even during class, if they're having a moment where they're not able to really focus and they need to maybe take a break for a few minutes. So it's definitely a fantastic support for the students. It's got a really nice feel in there. It's kind of like a spa atmosphere. You've got diffusers everywhere. You've got some really fun games for them to play. So it's a really great area for the students if they're feeling a little overwhelmed. And they can always, like I said before, go talk to that staff member that's in there. In addition to the Wellness Center, we of course have the counseling office, and that's where us school counselors are housed. And the school counselors, we really work hard with the students and families to help facilitate their academic, their social emotional growth, in college and career readiness as well. Especially in junior high, we spend a lot of time on the social and emotional, and a lot of it has to do with peers. We see a lot of peer issues that come up, and that's normal, that's expected. Also with the academic counseling, that's what we work hard with them, building those organizational skills that Ms. Carson touched on earlier. Helping them with self-advocacy. We know that's a really, really big part of junior high, is getting your students comfortable going up to the teacher when they have questions. And we know that's a hard thing. And the 7th grade teachers know that can be difficult as well. But we know it's a skill that needs to be worked on. So that's something that we can always assist with. One of the challenges I think that we always that we have with the students, and again, it's very typical, and we ask for parent support on this, is a lot of times when they're working through different challenges, it can come off as really extreme. Their perspectives can sometimes be a little off because the emotions are really high, and we get that. We have students that will come in and say, I'm being bullied horrifically, and then we want to talk about that. And then at the end of the conversation, it turns out that somebody bumped into them on the way to class in the passing period, and they've never seen that student before. So I think when your student says things about teachers or students or how they're feeling, really important to have those conversations with them and reach out to us so we can support them here at the school as well. And that's what it's all about, right? It takes a village. We're here to come with you 100% of the time to make sure that they're being successful academically, socially, emotionally. And we can't do that alone. And one of the great team members that we have to help us with that as well as the social worker. And so the school social worker can provide students and families with economic support, community outreach, if there's different programs in the community that need to be accessed. Maybe there's some outside therapeutic support that needs to be set up, and you're not quite sure how to do that. That's something that the social worker and the school counselors can help with. But we really do have an amazing team here at Arroyo Seco, and we work very well together to try to make sure we address everything that we can, whether it's attendance concerns, mental health concerns, social stress. We know that there's a lot of things that they're navigating through. So at the end of the day, if you're not sure how to help and not sure what to do, please reach out to your student's school counselor, and then we'll set up a meeting, we'll talk, we'll email, we'll do whatever we need to do to make sure that they get the support that they need. Thank you, Ms. Rose.
All right, I think this is me and additional supports. All right, here we go. Look at this list. We've got a lot. All right, we have all sorts of parent nights, back to school night, the junior high experience and open house. So please come when we have those. Our teams and departments also, many of them have their own websites where they house homework calendars, some assignments, announcements, and links so that you can reach out to individual teachers. The majority of our teachers use Google Classroom, and so I know a lot of us are already familiar with that, which is excellent. And that's provides a lot of communication and assignments. Infinite Campus is used school-wide, and that is, as Ms. Carson mentioned, a good way to check up on assignments. And there's an app that you all can sign up for so that you get lots of alerts if there's an assignment missing. Communication is key, right? So please email teachers, counselors, questions or concerns. We are happy to take a phone call or schedule a conference with you to discuss anything. We also have a counseling website that gives you lots of good links for strategies, announcements, free tutoring. And please, we welcome you to join our Parent Advisory Council, and it meets every other month. And you get lots of communication between parents and staff, and it's a great place to coordinate volunteers and things like that. So there's lots of ways to get involved as a parent, and we welcome you all here. Miss D, you're up. Let the fun begin.
All righty. I saw a lot of future conquistadors out there sitting with your parents. The next couple slides are for you. So we do a lot during our noon times and activities at Arroyo Seco. We have things like every month, the birthday bash. And at that time, at the month of your birthday, you get a special surprise. We have dances. We're going on a field trips. In November, for you athletes out there, we have the Turkey Bowl, football competition. And sometimes we even have competitions where the students take on the teachers. It's great. Lots of dodgeball activities, assemblies of soccer. And what we're just finishing right now, bum-ba-dum-ba-dum-ba-da, March Madness basketball. Woo-hoo! And in terms of competition with other schools, we do have 2 competitions, one in the fall. That's our cross-country meet where students meet with the other junior highs and they run the cross-country track over at COC. And then coming up in the spring, we have our track meet, and the track meet are, your typical track activities with the shot put and the distance running and the sprints and the high jump and all kinds of really cool things. We introduced something new this year and it was a big success, and that's the Seco Olympics. And that's where teams are competing with each other for those gold medals, which for us are spirit points. And spirit points earn teams things like Rita's Ice Cream Bash or Pizza Party or something along those lines. So it's really a lot of fun. That all happens at noontime and in evenings for dances and so forth. Next slide, please, Mr. Marshall. Beep. Clubs. We also have all kinds of clubs here at Arroyo Seco. And clubs are created by you, future conquistadors, with whatever your interest is. You have an idea for a club, you find a staff member to support you and just be the supervisor of your club, and you got yourself a club. It's really a lot of fun. These are some of the clubs that we've had in the past, and some of them are current. We've had everything from a filmmakers club. We've had a video game club. We even had something called a bass club. We have a few teachers here that are really into fishing. And in the bass club, they practiced their casting and they even made their own fishing lures. It was great. We had a DIY, a do-it-yourself club, learning how to do animation club. An anime club has been very, very, very popular. A roots club and a conquistadors give back club. Those were community-based clubs where we are giving back some things to those of us that are not quite as fortunate as we are. So there's all kinds of things that you can get involved in. And future conquistadors, the best way to get through junior high on top of academics is be involved. Get yourself involved. If you're a sports person, you saw all the things for sports on that last slide. Get yourselves into those intramurals, play basketball, football, soccer, whatever your passion is. And if you're a club person, start a club. Create something that's not on here yet. In fact, we have some going right now that are not on this list. So it's up to you, conquistadors. Let's help us make Seco the greatest school here in Santa Clarita.
All right, next slide, Mr. Marshall. And to wrap it up is Miss Dose. What happens next? We've shared all of this good stuff with you. Now what happens?
Hi there, can you hear me okay? Okay, first of all, nice to meet all of you guys. This is wonderful. I see some familiar last names, which is fun. I will be overseeing 7th grade next year, so I'm very, very excited to meet all of you. So what happens next? We've got online registration. You will be getting information in May, and we have online paperwork that you will be completing. Of course, you want to make sure your immunizations are up to date. And then information also will be sent to you about summer check-in. So our 7th grade summer check-in is August 2nd. Our 8th grade summer check-in is the day before, I believe. If you have a 7th and an 8th grader, they can do it together on the same day. But it's a busy day. You will get a schedule sent out to you by last name for your time to come on in and do your summer check-in. Make sure you're well prepared because we do the yearbook picture that day, which is also the picture we use for your ID card. Your ID card is very, very important. You need it every day to check into school. You need it to check out library books. You need it to get lunch. So it's going to be one of those items that needs to be on your person at all times. You'll receive your binder reminder, which we talked about. That's your calendar. You'll pick up your books, which stay home. You do not bring your books to school every day. Every classroom has a class set of books. First day of school is Tuesday, August 8th. Our classes start at 8 o'clock, so you'll have a warning bell, or we call it the tardy bell, at 7:55. Parents, don't worry about that first day of school. Every adult that lives and breathes on the Seco campus will be out and about directing your children where to go on that first day of school.
All right, Mr. Marshall, there you go.
All right, so we will have a Q&A after this. I think both Mrs. Rose and Mr. Marshall are checking their chats. However, I know you're going to get off this meeting and all these questions are going to pop into your head. So take out your phones right now, take a screenshot of those email addresses, or you can call the school, of course. We are here for all of your questions. And yeah, we are certainly looking forward to next year.
All right, I'm going to go through some of the chat questions and then, oh, now
Should I keep sharing that?
I don't know, but I lost my chat. As soon as we did that, as soon as, hold on. Oh, here we go. Okay. I'm going to go through some of the chat questions, and I know we had also sent out a Google form inviting you to answer some questions. So let me go through these first, and then we'll go over to the questions that were the form that was emailed out. All right. If my son has a 504, will you be contacting us about that, or do we need to make an appointment with you all? Ms. Dealin Tice, I think you've got this one.
All right, perfect. Thank you very much. So 504 plans that are written at the elementary school are for the elementary school. Okay, the accommodations that were written in the 504 plan, the agreement was with the elementary school, that site, those teachers. Your child, it is noted that your child does have a 504 plan. We look at the 6th grade accommodations. We send those 6th grade accommodations out to our teachers so they are aware when your child walks in on that first day of school that your child had a 504 plan in elementary school. And then about 3 to 5 weeks in, depending on what the concern is or the eligibility is for the 504, we will reach out to you and set up a 504 meeting. A lot of the accommodations in elementary school are not necessarily needed in junior high, and some new ones might be needed to better support your child. So we really like our teachers to get to know your child before they start making accommodation plans for students they don't even know. But they are aware of the accommodations in elementary school. We always start with our health concerns. So our students who have diabetes, our students who might have epilepsy, those are the 504s that we start with. So if your student has attentional issues, they're going to be a little bit later. We're looking at those at week 4 and week 5. But those urgent medical 504 plans do take priority. So those are addressed immediately. If you have a copy of your 504 plan, when we have 6th grade family night and you want to bring it with you and drop it off, that would be great. The elementary school is supposed to send the file of 504s to us. However, sometimes we don't always get them all. So if your child is on a 504 and you have a copy of it, it's much appreciated. We might not look at it right away, but it is much appreciated. So when the beginning of the year comes, we can jump on it and make sure that everybody is aware and so forth with the 504 plans. Are there any questions regarding the 504? Mr. Marshall, did I miss anything, Ms. Carson, that you could think of?
I thought you,
Oh, go ahead.
I thought you did a great job, Ms. Dealentice. Yeah, absolutely. Like you said, you know, the elementary schools typically do a great job with getting those to us, but better safe than sorry. If you have a copy during that 6th grade family night, you can email them to us just to play it safe to make sure we get that. That would be fantastic, because sometimes it does happen where, you know, we get a call from you and it might be a couple of weeks in and it's not in the cumulative file and none of the records passed over. So we don't like when that happens. So yeah, please reach out to us.
Right. And one last thing, please remember that 504 plan that is in place in elementary school is for elementary school. So if you're creating a 504 plan in April or May, that's not for us at the junior high. That's not a junior high 504 plan. I can't say that enough. That we can only make a 504 plan to address the site that the student attends. The same happens in high school. The high school it's known that what students have a 504 plan. We talk to our high school comrades over there, and they too will revisit the 504 plan when your child is a 9th grader.
We have some parents on that topic who want to know about, does that apply to IEPs? When do they find out about their IEP meetings?
No, IEPs are completely different. A 504 plan is under the general education umbrella. The IEP is under special education, and your current case managers should be communicating with you right now regarding a matriculation meeting to come to Arroyo Seco, or discussing with you the programs that we have here. We, of course, prefer a meeting so we get to know and see your student. Sometimes the case manager will say, this is, pretty basic accommodations, we can do a paper trail. But an IEP student will have a case manager here at Arroyo Seco who oversees their group of students of about 25 kids, maybe 25 to 28 kids. A 504 student is on a counselor's caseload, and we oversee about 430 kids. Big difference. Okay, big difference.
Okay.
I had a question about if they were going to miss the 7th grade summer check-in, and if there's going to be a makeup summer check-in, which I know there is, and I want to say it's the Monday, the day before school starts. Dr. Keene, do you know if they can take pictures at that time?
Yes, so we do have an abbreviated check-in process that following Monday. So we definitely would prefer they come on the scheduled day. There's just a little bit more that they'll get, but if we understand that if you're out of town, you're not able to attend, you can't come the Monday before school starts.
Okay, let me. Hold on, there was a bunch of other questions. All right, can students go to the library in the morning on late start Wednesdays? And can they stay in the library after they are released at the end of the day until the library closes at 3:30? Dr. Keene, you want to answer this one?
So the library, we have limited staffing in the library. There are days we have 2 staff members. There are days we have 1. There are times when there are meetings. So the library will post their schedules. but because school is out at 2:25, I would say the library is not consistently open until 3:30. There are some days where they're open till, I believe, around 3 o'clock. Some days they close a little bit earlier. And then typically on late start days, I think that was part of the question. We check students in. We ask that they get here at 8:30 for a 9:10 start to make sure that we have all of our supervision in place for them. And then typically the library is open on late start mornings, although there are times when because of meetings, it is closed.
Okay, and you clarified on when late start Wednesdays. What about on a regular school day? What time can students be dropped off?
Again, we ask 7:30. I know that we start letting students in a little bit before that, around 7:15, but just because of supervision, we can't open earlier than that.
Okay, and we have a few parents that aren't getting our emails. Mr.
So if you're not getting the email, don't worry yet. The system is still being updated. That update will continue to happen. We'll start to reach out again after spring break. Spring break is the first week of April. And then we will send some messages, both phone calls with attached emails. So we'll let you know if you did not receive the email at that time, then please reach out and let us know. But I would say it's a little premature because the system is still being updated. While I think of it, can I also plug, Mr. Marshall, maybe you want to plug our parent night. That's the next event that we'll share with you on April 20th. We may have mentioned a little bit about that earlier, but we do look forward to seeing you physically on campus on April 20th on the afternoon. So we will send out more information about that after spring break as reminders. And by that time, if you're still not receiving emails, then we would want to know, and we'll figure that out.
Bring your 504s.
Yeah, the sixth grade family night really is a great opportunity to get a feel for the campus. You'll have an opportunity to walk around, meet some of the teachers that volunteer their time to say hello to all the incoming cherubs. And I believe Jersey Mike's will be selling some sandwiches, which is always a nice way to get some food. We'll have the band performance, our drama and choir as well. You can meet the counselors, some of the administrators, like I said, some of the teachers. So it's just sixth grade family night really is a nice way just to get your feet wet on what the campus will look like, what it's going to feel like. And then Dr. Keene, do we know if we're going to do something along the lines of they can come in the day before school starts?
Yeah, so after we do the check-in, the schedules are not finalized. Our counselors are working on all of the scheduling right up until pretty much the last minute. So the Monday before school starts, I believe that's August 7th. So school starts August 8th. That Monday is when the schedules are actually finalized. So you should be able to access those through Infinite Campus on the afternoon of August 7th. And we will typically open up the campus then for an hour or a couple hours that afternoon. So by then you should have been on campus at least a couple of times already, but on August 7th, you'll actually be able to come with your child's schedule in hand and walk around the campus and see where their rooms are, just to take away some of that anxiety before the first day of school. Again, if for some reason you're not able to access the schedule at that time, we'll be able to provide you a schedule for your child. And as Ms. Dose said, there are tons of adults on campus on the morning of the first day of school. And so I don't think we've ever had a student not end up where they needed to be. So we'll definitely work with them.
Okay. We have a couple questions actually, and this was on the Google form also about lunch and how do students pay for lunch?
I can jump in again. This year, students have not had to pay for lunch. All students were entitled to a free breakfast, free lunch. I don't believe we've gotten a final word on whether that's continuing next year. As Ms. Dose said, students do need their ID in order to get their lunch. And then we do have a student store which has more snack food, and those items are cash only. So.
Yeah, the student store has some great items, so they can bring their cash, everything from some nice little snack food that isn't sold in the cafeteria. So it's definitely like a little mini 7-Eleven there on campus.
Okay. Mr. Marshall, how many clubs can you be in at once, Mr. Marshall?
Ooh, I love that question. I love that.
know.
That is great. As many as you would like to be in. The clubs are an open door policy. So, you know, if you're looking at the club list and you're wanting to check out the chess club one day, and maybe it's Tuesdays at lunch, you go to the chess club, check it out. You don't have to sign up on a form or anything. You just show up, say, hey, I'm here to play some chess or learn how to play it. And then maybe Wednesday, you're looking at the list and same thing. You see another club that looks really interesting, whether it's the Harry Potter club, video game club, Roots club, whatever it might be, just show up, go to the club, meet some new people who have some common interests. It's a great way of meeting some of your peers. And you can really show up to as many clubs as you like. Obviously, there might be some clubs that exist at the same time. Maybe they both meet at lunch on Thursdays, and you just have to make a choice, and that's hard sometimes. But there's no limit. I suppose the only limit would be how many clubs can you actually create, which then it gets a little tricky because you do need to be at the clubs that you create consistently, as you're the host. You're the one who's setting up the activities if there are structured activities. But if you just want to kind of attend and see, you know, test the water, see what's out there, just show up, you know. And it's the same thing on a side note for the counseling office. You of course, students can email us if they want to come see us, but we also have an open door policy. So at the beginning of nutrition, beginning of lunch, we encourage students to come on in, say hi to the school counselors. If they have a quick question or not a quick question, either way, you just come on in. We do ask that they come in though at the beginning of nutrition and the beginning of lunch, not the end of lunch when they should be going to their classes, unless there's an emergency, of course, or even in between classes. If they can get to the class, that's where we want them to be. But we definitely want them to come see us, you know, before school, after school, or at the beginning of nutrition and lunch too.
And when I know we're talking about clubs a little bit, where do our students find out what clubs are available and when they meet?
So it does take some time once the school year gets started, because as Ms. Delantai said earlier, these clubs are all created by students. And so we typically, it takes maybe a month or so for the clubs to start coming in, trickling in. That's what I was going to say. So it might take a month or so for us to start advertising those clubs. And we do advertise the clubs on the Conquistador News Network, the morning announcements. We also have club lists in the counseling office as well. And then you can always email us, or your student can email us as school counselors, and we can provide those club lists. But it does typically take a few weeks at least before we start getting that up and running. And again, if your child sees that there isn't a club that they're really interested in, please have them come to the counseling office. We'll give them all the forms they need to make their own club. Typically, like Ms. Delantai said, you just have to find a teacher who's willing to sponsor the club, and some of their friends to sign up as well. So it's a pretty easy process if they want to create their own club.
Okay, and then we have a couple questions about specialty electives. And once our students have applied for a specialty elective such as ASB, yearbook, and drama production, when would they be notified?
I could take that one. So each of our specialty electives do have a process, and on our website, and probably emailed out to you as well, there will be an elective description, so to speak. They're going to do their own little slide presentation like we did for you here. And you'll be able to click on that, and it will tell you the dates for certain deadlines for different things and when they'll be notified. We do the master scheduling, so we need to have those lists before we get to go on summer vacation. So we really bug those music directors and drama productions because we want our summer vacation. So yes, they'll be notified. I would say the bulk of them will be notified by mid-June probably, and then there's always a few that trickle in. But the ASB is very distinct. You'll be notified. That one is usually within 48 hours of the final interview or presentation, maybe a week. Band, after the audition, you're usually notified pretty quickly on that one. The drama production takes a little bit longer. We usually have a lot of interest in that one, so it takes a little bit longer to get through all of the auditions. But it's a fairly quick process.
One thing on that note too, Misty, one thing that we ask parents is if your student is putting in multiple applications for different year-long electives, which we think is great if they have different interests, maybe you can have them have like a priority, because sometimes when we're doing the master schedule, we'll start making phone calls to parents saying, hey, I'm looking at these different lists and
We can't hear you, Mr. Marshall.
Uh-oh.
Mr. Marshall, you never sounded better. I'm going to take it from here. What Mr. Marshall is attempting to say, look at, he's still talking. He doesn't even know he's not talking. We can't hear a word you're saying, Mr. Marshall.
can you
What
hear me
Mr.
now?
Marshall is saying is when we do the master schedule and we have those lists, sometimes we get kids' names that appear on advanced band, appear in drama production, appear in ASB, and appear in CNN because they've been accepted for all four, but you can only do one. So it would, if your student is applying for four, which is awesome, if they could share with you what their priority list is, because you will get a call from us saying, hey, Joe Schmo here, congrats. You just made it into all 4 year-long electives, but you only get one. Which one's it going to be? And sometimes Joe Schmo's off at summer camp and I'm talking to dad and dad doesn't have a clue. So if you could please work with your child and have a priority list. So when you get that call, we can answer it quickly. We can get to the answer fairly quickly. We'd appreciate it. Mr. Marshall, thumbs up. Is that what you were going to say?
Can you hear me now?
I can hear you now.
That's fantastic. That's exactly it. Thank you, Ms. Neal and Tice.
Okay. I'm gonna throw this one over to Ms. Dose because she is our COVID queen. And I know, I don't know if you want to be the queen, but she is. She knows everything. And there's some questions I know coming in about some COVID restrictions. If we have them, what are we doing for close contacts currently? Can you answer that for us?
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, we still have cases coming in. They're slowing down. We do not require masks at all. Students are in classrooms, they're interacting. We still do have a number of teachers and students who voluntarily wear masks. But at this point, you know, we're following whatever the state suggests or recommends. We have a full-time COVID person at the district office that sends out information to all schools as to where we should be. If we do have a positive case, I fill out something called a COVID track. And then students are notified that they may have been exposed. But that's about where we are. Did I answer what you wanted?
I think so.
Okay.
I was going to touch on just a couple of things too to give some updates. I do see that our club list, actually, if you're interested in making a club, is available the first day of school. And so while it does take some time for us to get all the lists or all the clubs up and running, if your child wants to make a club, they can come into the counseling office right away and pick up that form to make their own club. And then I also wanted to just clarify that the ASB students will be notified on June 2nd if they are in ASB. So on June 2nd will be when ASB students are notified.
Okay. We have a few more questions. One came in, is there an after-school program for working parents, an after-care school program for working parents? Unfortunately, I think I can answer that. We don't have any kind of program like that currently running for working parents. Homeroom, how does homeroom work? We don't really have a homeroom. So that's how it works. No, we do have a surfer period that happens right after lunch. But I guess some teachers sort of treat it as a homeroom, but not really. Typically that's for silent reading. Our first period of the day, we have some extra time in that built into that first period so that that gives a chance for any morning announcements and for our CNN, our news network, to run their announcements. I guess that would be more, but otherwise we don't really have a homeroom. How long is lunch? It's not long enough, right? 35 minutes. So it goes fast, but that is how long lunch is. Okay. We do not, oh, go ahead.
I was just going to add too, for lunch, one of the things that we do recommend, maybe the first week of school or so, that lunch line can get pretty hectic. We have, like I said, over 1,100 students, 1,200 students about, and trying to go through that lunch line. There are times when the students, it's towards the end of lunch and they finally get to come out. We of course make sure that they have time to eat their food. But to cut down on some of the anxiousness that they might have on those first couple of days, I definitely encourage them to bring their own lunch just to ensure that they have plenty of time to find their friends, sit down, eat their food. They can watch the lunch line, see the flow of it, how it works. But I definitely think it's quite helpful for the students if they can bring, again, not everyone, because then no one's gonna be at the lunch line, but for a lot of the students, if they can bring their own lunch, just that way it's one less thing for them to have to navigate through on those first couple of days of school.
All right. Another question. Do you have a 0 period? No, we currently do not have a 0 period. We start with period A on Mondays. A 0 period would be something that would start before our regular start time. So we do not currently have that. How about transportation for children? Transportation, we do have city buses that have come to the school and have drop-offs. We have 5 buses. Is that correct, Dr. King?
Yeah, we have 5 different buses that they are city buses, but they're dedicated for our Arroyo Seco students. So if you wanted to look, you can look on the Santa Clarita Transit website to get an idea of the routes and the times. Those, of course, are subject to change from year to year, but they do come from 5 different areas. They drop off at different times in the morning, and then students can board the buses. They leave right after school is out, and they will follow the routes home. So students can take them to their neighborhood's home.
Ms. Dose, I have another COVID question for you.
Okay.
Actually, don't worry, it's an easy one, I think. If a student unfortunately gets COVID and needs to be out of school for extended period, how can they make up for the missed classes?
Oh, that's an easy one. So, we've been doing this now for a few years and we really have a good system in place. Most 99% of our teachers post everything on Google Classroom. We have a few teachers that don't. However, they're available by email. Everything is available. So if there's a worksheet or there's, a reading assignment, you and your student, your child will have access to Google Classroom to make sure they're keeping up with everything. If there is a teacher who doesn't use Google Classroom, like I said, there's very few who don't, you get that same amount of time. So if you're out for 5 days, you get 5 days to make all that work up. But we've all suffered through this pandemic. We're very flexible. If you need even more time, we're very flexible. It's all about communication.
All right. Going back to specialty electives, Ms. Dealentice, you want to take it? The question. Our students, will they get to explore specialty electives on family night before they can decide?
This is a dual answer. Mr. Marshall can help me too, but they're going to hear the band. They're going to hear the choir. The culinary, no, they're not doing that. CNN room will probably be open, maybe, Mr. Marshall? Possibly.
Yeah. I believe the teacher who will be teaching, I believe they can be available for questions.
Yes. ASB will be holding meetings. They usually hold a meeting on that night as well. Which one am I missing? Drama production, like the drama production sometimes does skits for us and so forth that you can watch. So yes, they'll be able to explore that. Mr. Marshall?
So yes, and like you're saying, during the sixth grade family night, the band, drama, production, choir, the performing arts for sure. ASB as well, like you mentioned, Ms. Thielen-Theis, there's gonna be 2 informational, informative sessions during sixth grade family night. The information will of course be made available on the incoming 7th grade portal. I will make sure to send that information out as far as what to expect for that family night. I believe the yearbook instructor will be there as well. And I think that's all of the specialty year-longs.
Okay. We have a question about study hall. Is there a study hall? We don't offer a study hall. I mean, we do have after school intervention, but that is typically by invite only. That kind of depends on a lot of factors, who gets invited to that. But that is something that, you're welcome to inquire about through your counselor. But a study hall during the school day, we don't have that.
And I know we mentioned earlier, the library typically is open, at nutrition and lunch. And lunch, it gets a little rowdy from time to time, especially when it's raining and students are seeking shelter from the rain. But the library can be a great place, to access the computer lab, textbooks, if there's some work that they need to finish, that day, or they just want to get ahead, whatever it might be. So that's always a good option too.
When do students get their PE clothes, Mr. Marshall?
What a great question, Miss Rose. I want to say like Miss Thielen-Theis would probably have the answer to that one.
I can help you out on that one. So those first couple days, they stand in line because we want to make sure they get the right size. And if we leave it up to the kid, oftentimes they come with pants that are hanging down to their ankles or something along that line. So the first few days, we have parent volunteers and everything. They come in, we take a look, we hand out the uniforms, but it's within the first week of school, the majority of times.
I think, Ms. Thielen-Theis, we actually distributed them at the check-in day as well.
Last year? Awesome.
So
That's even better. Yeah.
So I'm not sure if we're doing it exactly that way again, but definitely within, if not the check-in day, within that first week of school.
Yeah, and I think it's the first week. I have a contact I'm working with right now. I believe it's the first week.
Thank you, Mr. Marshall. Sorry.
Absolutely. No, that's perfect. One of the things I did want to touch on as well, which I know it's kind of a side comment here, is we know as the summer comes to an end, lots of families might be finishing up vacations or different trips. And it's as much as possible, it's really important not to miss that first week of school. We know that Google Classroom is a great resource that students can access and parents can access as well. But there's just not really a great substitute for that first week when you're meeting all the new teachers and the students. So if possible, I know it can be difficult. I'm going through the same thing right now myself, but try to plan those vacations and trips so that your child's able to be there that first week of school. It's a really, really crucial week to helping them transition to junior high. All
right. We reached the end of the list. Does anybody else have a question that we didn't answer? I feel good about answering these. Yes, we are. You want the slides shared with you. We are planning to make the slides available.
I'll put it on the incoming 7th, or it'll be put on the incoming 7th grade portal along with the recording of this entire presentation at some point soon, maybe next week.
Are there any other?
I see a hand up there, Miss Rose.
I think they're clapping.
Is that a clap or a hand? Oh, it might have been a clap.
Oh, there was a quick question about case managers. When are parents notified of case managers for students with IEPs?
We need to get through all the matriculation meetings. We need to find out the needs of our students so they can be dispersed appropriately. Case managers, when your student picks up their schedule, they will be listed on your child's schedule. It might take up until when they get their schedule before you get it. In the past, case managers have sent out something to parents that let them know that they're their case manager. It's a little bit different than elementary school. Your child still will have 6 different teachers and so forth. The case manager basically houses and works with the IEP paperwork. Questions about classwork would go directly to that particular instructor, but the case manager manages everything that has to do with the IEP.
Okay, and just to clarify, Ms. Dealentice, we're still working through matriculations, right? So if they haven't heard from a case manager yet,
They need to talk to their elementary case managers. They're not going to hear from ours. They're not our students until they come to us in August. So all that say it for me, matriculation stuff, information is started and initiated by the Saugus School District. The Saugus case manager is the one that is in charge of that matriculation work. Now, we may work with them and explain our programs and meetings and so forth, but we can't access your child's information until they're transferred only over into our system. And that doesn't happen until after the first day of school. So please talk to your current case managers. If you have questions about our programs and so forth, and you are debating about placement, please ask your case manager or tell your case manager you would really like to have a meeting with the junior high so we can thoroughly explain our programs to you.
okay, and a few more questions came in. Mr.
That's good.
Marshall.
Keep them going. I'm ready.
Is there a summer bridge to accelerated math 7, Mr. Marshall?
Oh, that's such a specific question. I love that. This person's very knowledgeable. So yes, that placement test I referenced earlier, the one that will be administered typically in May at the 6th grade school, the scores, as I mentioned before, will be used to determine who places into Accelerated Math 7. Those scores will also be used to determine who receives an invite to the bridge class. So sometimes it changes. Typically 85% or higher gets them into the Accelerated Math 7 class. If they were close, and it changes, so I'm not going to say what percentage, but if they're close, they may receive an invite saying, hey, you're invited to attend a summer school class to help bridge some of those gaps to ensure you're ready for the retake of that placement test. And then that placement test, once again, if they score, earn the score they need, then they will be placed into the Accelerated Math 7 class. The students who struggle greatly on the placement test, they will also receive an invite to the Math 7 Prep summer school class. All of that is done through our district office, and so that information will be sent out once all of the placement tests have been finished and submitted. As I mentioned before, that'll be towards the end of May, sometimes even early June. Things are still getting submitted. So don't worry if it's the end of May, you haven't heard anything yet. You should get your score early June. And then that will say what the placement is, but it'll either be Math 7 or the Accelerated Math 7 class. One thing I did want to add, it feels like sometimes there's a lot of pressure on the students to really get into the Accelerated Math 7 class. I want to assure parents, guardians, and all the students that if you get placed into Math 7, you're going to be just fine. You can still access accelerated classes in high school, such as honors classes and advanced placement classes. So I promise if you're in Math 7, you are okay. Honestly, and this is just a personal preference for, I think, about my own 3 boys, I would want them in Math 7 almost no matter what, because the Accelerated Math 7 class, you're looking at about a minimum of 45 minutes of homework, if not longer. That's just math homework, in addition to the history, science, English, PE when that happens, exploratory homework when that happens. That's a tremendous amount of work for an incoming 7th grader. And then it just keeps it going, because in the 8th grade, they're placed in the next accelerated class. So it's definitely a great class when it's appropriate. But, if your child gets into the Math 7, I think it's okay. Miss Dose, I did see that you unmuted, and I know you're a former math teacher. Do you want to speak to this a little bit too?
Yeah, I do. Thank you, Mr. Marshall, for noticing. Families, I was a math teacher for 17 years at the high school level, before being an administrator. And I can't emphasize more to not rush it. There is what I call a math maturity that comes when it comes, and to force that on your child is just gonna go south. My own daughter, who is here next to me, actually made it into the accelerated through the test, and I held her back because I knew that building those skills at a normal pace, at a reasonable pace, would actually benefit as she moves forward. And now she, and she ended up doing very, very, very well. Mr. Marshall and the counselors and I have worked with families that rushed it, and it just wasn't a success. So there's no need to rush that process. Let them learn as they learn.
And the last thing I was going to add too is, and I'm glad you touched on this, Ms. Dose, is if your child does make it into the accelerated math class and you don't want them in that class, they obviously do not have to be. Every year, the counselors get a handful of emails saying, hey, I know my child placed into this class, but please keep them Math 7. And so if that's your desire, just send the school counselor an email and we'll make sure that they're in Math 7.
All right. We have a couple questions about, our school in the past has invited 8th graders to go to Washington, DC. On a Washington, DC trip. We have some questions of if that's coming, there's any talk of that coming back.
So there are trips for 8th graders. They're actually not associated with the school district. So World Strides is the organization. But yes, those trips still do continue to happen.
Okay. I don't have any other questions here. Does anyone else have a final question or thought?
And we'll remain on for a few minutes too. If you don't want to
Yeah.
type it, if you want to unmute yourself as people are dispersing, of course, that's fine too.
Well, we do really appreciate you coming tonight. And I know Zoom is a little bit difficult, but we really hope that you're able to come on the 20th, April 20th, where we can meet you in person. And instead of just throwing so much information at you, you'll just have the opportunity to walk around campus and get familiar with it and hopefully meet us in person. So look forward to seeing you then.
Same. Thank you everyone for being here. It's a great opportunity for us to see your faces and the great questions.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks. Have a great night.
See you soon. Meeting slides, yes, we're going to be posting them to the 6th grade portal sometime next week-ish. Bye.
We can stay on. Do you want to stop recording?
Oh yeah, I'll stop.